at Philadelphia and in New York, and in fact in the play called Beatlemania, and he portrayed Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
My baby brother was the backup drummer for Prince at one point. So we all come from a the long line of family musicians. So Mom would have me playing at the church.
Okay.
She was the church musician.
You was playing saxophone at the church.
Saxophone at the church, which they didn't have a lot of at that time. So I really got made fun of by the kids.
More of an organ and piano.
Organ, piano, and tambourine.
That's all they had at that time. Exactly.
You know. So here I come with the horn, and they were like, "Okay, what's she gonna do with that?" You know, and I was cutting my teeth. I developed my ear. Musicians will understand.
You play by ear?
I play by ear.
Cool.
And
how far along was that from the time that you just learned how to play the...
Oh, that next year.
Wow.
You know, because her thing was, you playing, you're going to play for the Lord. And I'm like, okay. So a lot of times I would listen to the radio and learn different Motown songs, you know, and I would play along with the radio. And so she heard me doing that. And my dad heard me doing that too. He said, let me put some B.B. King on, you know. So I would play along with B.B. King, and her thing was, okay, you're going to play for the Lord too. So she would take me to church on Sunday. We play for the Lord, me and my brother. On Saturday night, boy, we dust that floor with the blues. Okay. You know. So me and my brother, they got into a group later on, right behind the Jackson 5. We were on stage with them at many of the talent shows. In fact, we always tell a joke about Michael running over my foot, just stepping on my foot, and Jermaine saying, "Hey, say excuse me." He took off running. He ain't said excuse me yet, trying to get some money for that broke toe. No, hey, I'm the one that you stepped on. You know, it didn't work. So we developed what they call a garage band at that time, and won many of the talent shows, and went on the road. We were trying to get a record deal. But at the time, folks was graduating from school, and we had to make a choice, go to college, do this, do that. So my brother went to New York, and other members of the band either was in the military or they went off to college, and that left me by myself.
Wow.
So from there, I turned to pageants.
Okay.
Started doing little things in pageants, and when they allowed talent, I would play the horn and you know, for the talent. I got into Miss Black Indiana Expo, Black Expo, only because they didn't have a bathing suit competition. And I weighed all of 80-something pounds wet, you know. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, please don't make me put on a swimming suit, please, please. So got into that, and in 1976, I became the state queen for Black Expo in Indiana.
That is cool. Yeah. So what made you get into taking it as a solo career? We know that you have promoted albums, and you have released albums under Lady Sax, and you have grown a legendary status here in the city of Gary, and not only that, Indiana as a whole. So what made you go into solo artists, and I'm sorry, solo as an artist, you know, but going to promoting music as a solo, not being a part of pageants, but going on as Lady Sax? What created the legacy of Lady Sax?
Well, when I was 14, and with the band that we were speaking of with me and my brother, we were in a club right here on Fifth Avenue, and we were too young to be in the club. So what the guy would do is, for his Saturday in the afternoon crowd, he would bring us in, and he called himself auditioning us so we can play later on in the evening. But it was just free music for him. And so it was this guy in there that was drunk. Wow. You know, and he kept saying, "Lay it on the saxophone." Lay it on the saxophone. So the guy started teasing me, and whenever this, every week, you know, we're down there auditioning again. The guy was really getting over on us. But this guy would come later and play on saxophone. So pretty soon, they started calling me Lady Sax. Okay. And that started my name. Right. So a little bit later, after I understood the business of music, I trademarked the name. Okay. And I became Lady Sax. Wow. So from playing in the church, that's when a lot of people would call me to perform. And in the church, you play for weddings and some of everything, funerals, and then I became the family's funeral musician as well. So somebody died, oh, she gonna have to play for the funeral. So from that, I started doing weddings, and from that, doing wedding anniversaries, and from that, doing for clubs and social organizations, the Alphas, the Kalpas, the Deltas, the whatever. And I also did a little training with a gentleman named Floyd Johnson who taught me jazz. Yeah. And he heard me singing one day too, and he's like, "How come you don't sing anymore? I mean, how come you don't sing?" I said, "Can't sing." You know? You know, I come from a family of singers.
Okay.
I can't sing. In fact, I'm too skinny to sing. Only bigger women can sing. Aretha, all them folks, they sing.
Wait, don't come for Aretha now.
She had lost her weight. She still has the voice. But back in that day, you know, Diana Ross was the only skinny singer. Everybody else was a little healthy, you know. But he taught me a lot about jazz, and I worked with the Floyd Johnson Trio for a while. And from there, you know, people. And then I got with the Fabulous Kings.
All right.
And I was with the Fabulous Kings for about 6 or 7 years. And after I left the Fabulous Kings, then people would call for me to do my own thing. My brother was on the East Coast, working on the Amtrak in the diner car, and he did a one-man act. You know, he had the keyboard and the soundtrack, and I mean, the only person on stage with him was a dummy, a female mannequin holding a guitar. What the heck? But people loved him, you know. So he gave me the idea of doing the same thing as a one-woman act. And back in that day, you would play along with cassette tapes, and I did that, and then it grew to CDs. And then I started my own studio doing some commercial work with another company called Maestro Advertising. And he would call me to do some music and some voiceovers. Okay. So that's when I started Dimple's Company. That's my music company. Okay. And at the same time, I have an accounting business. But I learned the business of music as far as copyright, royalties, because I came up in a day where the IRS would come in and take everybody's money. Yeah. And they got Isaac Hayes. And I'm like, oh, no. Let me learn how not to do this. Get this done.
Exactly.
You know?
Do the right thing.
So I started doing some seminars to young people in the school systems in East Chicago and Hammond in Chicago called The Business of Music. All right. So Maryville, I think I'm going to start doing that for their adult night classes, The Business of Music, a little later on. And that grew into me writing my own autobiography. Okay. And when a couple of good friends of mine that are writers said, you got to help me, you know, you got to help me. And they wouldn't help me. So I started writing my own. Exactly. And I write poetry. So I'm like, okay.
You know, and music is a form of poetry.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And from music, you start writing plays. You know, what made you venture into, you know, now I know as a playwright myself, I know as being behind the scenes and producing, you know, you want to touch every avenue from music, the music genre to the play genre. What made you leave, you know, take a hiatus on Lady Sax and venture into
really didn't. I really didn't take a hiatus. Okay. I do it all. What actually happened, I opened up for, I'll wrap it up. I opened up for a comedian, and they teased me about being from Gary. And then I heard a preacher say that Eve started everything wrong in the world. Okay. And I went home and I wrote the play called Sheation. What would happen if Eve could explain her part? Wow. You know, what would happen? And I wrote it all one day and one Easter Sunday. I wrote the whole play.
You have an upcoming play.
I do. Sheation is going to be performed at the Glen June 25th. Okay. Sheation 1-2-22. That's the name of the play. June 25th at the Glen Theater in Gary. Right.
And if they want any information,
yes,
we'll
please.
definitely post an email address.
Yes.
For the audience, the viewing audience, to get to you and be able to
viewing
get some
audience
information.
Can call me at area code 219-887. 7729 or on my website, www.ladysax.com.
All right, so Lady Sax, we're getting ready to take a commercial break, but when we come back, we want to find out what's cooking in the kitchen and more from Lady Sax. She'll be performing right here in the living room. And don't forget, we also find out who's really putting people first in the first. Councilwoman Cruces is in the building. All right. Thank you guys, and we'll be right back with more In Your House with Antoine Clemens.
Did you know that the average Social Security benefit is only $780 a month?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that most people will spend 20 years in retirement?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that a 40-year-old who saves $20 a week can have $75,000 when they retire?
I didn't know that.
There's a lot you might not know. To get free information about savings, visit our website or call this number.
I know what to do now.
Welcome back to In Your House with Antoine Clemens. You have just seen Lady Sachs join us in the living room. We also smelt what was cooking in the kitchen. But right now, a very honorable guest, 1st District Councilwoman of the City of Gary, Maryland, D. Cruces. Thank you, Madam Cruces, for joining me in the living room today.
Thank you.
All right.
Apron.
Councilwoman Cruces, you sit as the 1st District Councilwoman on the Gary City Council. And for those of you in the audience that don't know what a City Council role is, can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Basically, a city council council person either represents a district, or we have 6 districts, and we have 6 people representing a district or an area of the city based on population. We also have 3 that run at large, and they represent the entire city. For those of us in the district, we do assist residents with problems, issues, service-related problems. Like right now we're going through the pothole patch. Before it was snow removal. Though basically these services are performed by the city and the city management team. Council persons are usually sometimes asked to assist, you know, if in fact your street hasn't been reached yet. But basically our primary role is to work with the administration on developing on the budget. The administration builds the budget, they develop the budget. The council reviews the budget, and then they either pass it, make changes, or recommendations for change, or they don't pass it. We can only lower salaries. We cannot raise them. The only salaries we can raise, of course, are public safety if we choose to. But budgets, how the mayor wishes to spend, any mayor wishes to lay out his budget for the different departments, that is at his discretion. We don't really get involved in day-to-day management or operation of the city. We also review various ordinances passed by either the Plan Commission or the Board of Zoning Appeals when people are looking for special zoning situations for daycare centers. While they have their own board, their own commission that works on those ordinances, it still has to go before the city council. We also have the obligation to review contracts, large contracts that the city enters into, and either, again, pass or do not pass, support.
So without the city council's vote, can anything be done in the city of Gary?
Not substantively.
Okay. Okay, Councilwoman, we're going to come back to the City Council, but let's talk about your coming to Gary and your the reason why you decided to run for City Council, because you're not a native of Gary, but you you moved to Gary and you are sitting at City Council. So what made you move into that adventure?
Well, I've been in Gary for 20 years.
Okay.
First day here was at the end of 1990.
Okay, I was just born then.
Yeah, you were just. Thank you. And I came here involved with a residential property called Lakeshore Dunes. It had just been purchased by a company, and they wanted to do a major renovation and reopen the entire property. It's over in the Miller section on Lake Street, near the beach. And a year and a half after we started, we opened the property. Okay. A year and a half, almost 2 years. Began opening the property and ran it very well. At that time, I met a lot of Gary residents because there were mostly people from Gary that wanted to live there, and got to know many, many people from the city who actually ended up living there, from retired school teachers to firemen to young couples, young professionals, students, and families. We had quite a few families there at the apartment complex. In approximately 1997, I decided to take somewhat of an early retirement. The job had changed. I was commuting long distances, and I wanted to find something more local. So I took approximately 2 years off from working, and I started looking around, spending more time looking around at the city as a whole, and seeing what role I could possibly assist. I've always worked in private sector, which is businesses. We have to generate the income to be able to operate. Versus public sector, which provides our services for the city as well, helps the city run. And I thought I could bring some of my skills and experiences, especially experiences, to bear and make a positive impact for the city and help the city, which had some issues even at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring and started walking in neighborhoods, just going door to door, talking and meeting people.
And your first successful run was a successful run. You did take office that following year.
Yes,